In this episode, you'll hear some sensitive topics. So, with this trigger warning, if you have little ones around, please grab your headphones now.
So after 2.5 months in the hospital, I was told that my chance of survival was very slim. They thought that I would have about 3 weeks before my organs completely shut down. And can we make you comfortable here, or we can send you home and call hospice to come make you comfortable there? Ben, I wasn't even sick when I went in. I wasn't sure what was happening. So I chose to go home. The very first thing, my daughter came to visit me because no one was allowed to see me because of my being infected, and they had to keep the room clean and all this. So I didn't get to see any of my children. My daughter came to visit me with my grandson, and all I could think about was leaving him and how I would not be able to make one memory with him. I don't know about the rest of you, but my grandparents played a really big role in my life. And I still to this day can remember the smell of my grandmother. And she was a larger woman. And when I hugged her, she was soft. And I just loved my grandma hugs. We used to call her Bubba. And we loved her. She was amazing. So was my grandfather. And I remember so much, but how will I create a memory with this baby who's like 3.5 months old now? And I went on a journey to create a memory, which got me to ask my husband to bring me my laptop. And in bed, I typed in these words, desperate for health answers.
Folks, this week's guest is my new friend, Jana Short, brand strategy specialist, visionary entrepreneur, and 3-time best-selling author. From the brink of having 3 weeks left to live, to now thriving in life like never before, how did this powerhouse spirit change her life's trajectory? You'll definitely want to tune in to hear Jana's miraculous story. Let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast, the show that empowers you to live an enriching life physically, mentally, and spiritually. I am your host, Benjamin Ye, and I created this podcast to give you perspectives on how to strengthen your mindset so that you can build optimal health, create aligned wealth, and connect with your higher self. It's all interconnected. Let's get to work. Hi, folks. Welcome back to episode 63 of the Boom Vision Podcast. I'm happy to invite Jana Short to our show today. Jana is a new friend that was introduced through Julie DeLuca Collins, my friend and guest of episode 38. I first heard Jana's story when she was on Julie's podcast show, Casa de Confidence, and my intuition was telling me I needed to connect with Jana and invite her on Boom Vision. As a brief background, Jana Short, a formidable presence in the world of influencers and entrepreneurs, is a brand strategy specialist, NLP and RTT practitioner, visionary entrepreneur, 3-time best-selling author, and podcast host. She's also the editor of Best Holistic Life magazine, embodying a holistic approach to life. In 2023, Jana earned accolades such as Top Magazine Publisher and Publicist of the Year by IOATP, Top 15 Coach in Los Angeles by Influence Digest Los Angeles, and Women of the Year by Hollywood Soulish Magazine. She graced the cover of San Francisco Soulish Magazine in July 2022 and was named Los Angeles Entrepreneurs Magazine's top influencer for 2022. Jana's accomplishments reflect her relentless pursuit of excellence, but it's her emotional intelligence and inspirational power that truly sets her apart, making her a transformative force in the lives she touches. So without further ado, here's Jana. Jana Short, welcome to the Boom Vision Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ben. I'm super excited to be here today.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here, Jana. I would love to dive right in and start with your origin story. Jana, can you share with us a little bit about where did it all start for you and what led to what you are doing today?
Ben, I would love to share that story with you. It started for me 11 years ago. I was having a regular checkup. I told my doctor I had some indigestion, and they did a scope and said that I had this hiatal hernia. By the way, this is super common. I bet most of you have hiatal hernias, or you definitely get them as you get older. But mine had twisted, which means there was no blood flow to it, and it would dehisce, and they didn't want me to become septic and have to fight, infection in my body. So I agreed to have a surgery. I went in for this surgery. I'll never forget. I went in for this surgery and everything went beautifully. I came home. I felt amazing, except for when I ate. Every time I would eat food, I felt like I was being poisoned. I was in pain. I felt my body and energy levels just dropped. It was a struggle to try to digest the food. And then another little symptom popped up. I started looking like I was pregnant, like very pregnant. And people would come up and say, well, congratulations on your new baby. And honestly, I would thank them because, hey, I'm in my 50s. If you think I'm still having babies, thank you. But I'm not pregnant. And finally, I ended up in so much pain, I ended up in an ER. And I found out that when I had that surgery, they had severed the vagus nerve, which stimulates, it's like the nerve that runs through your digestive tract and makes everything function. And it had been severed. So my stomach was just a bowl that I kept filling, right? And it will stretch and stretch and stretch and fill. So it was full of food that would not exit my stomach. And it was literally poisoning me. So what they decided to do was have my stomach removed. And we had a plan. I'd have my stomach removed. I would be fed through a tube, and that was how I would survive. And so I agreed to this because I didn't have any other options. And on April 5th, I went in to have this surgery. 3 months earlier, I think it was 3 months or 3 weeks, I had a new grandson. This is like the magical moment for me. He was our 5th grandson. I was at his birth. And then a few weeks later, I go in for surgery on April 5th. And all heck broke loose. I came out of surgery. I'm healing. Everything seems to be going perfectly fine. And the next thing you know, I start feeling ill. And doctors come rushing in and pulling tubes and taking foods and liquids away from me. By the way, I couldn't eat food. It was soft. But they started taking everything away from me. And I wasn't sure what was going on. Well, the surgery had dehisced somewhere where they had removed my stomach. It had opened up and toxins were pouring into my body. And I became very, very ill. Both my lungs collapsed. I got pancreatitis. I was septic. And I was on tons of antibiotics, which I am very allergic to most. And my body was fighting to survive. And I did. I survived it after multiple blood transfusions, my lungs having tubes put in them so I could breathe. I survived. And they were feeding me this whole time something called TPN. TPN is something that's synthetic that they give you if you're in a coma or they need to feed you and give you nutrients to support your body. But synthetics did not agree with my body and my organs started shutting down. I had no other way of getting nutrients in my body. So after 2.5 months in the hospital, my hair falling out, my nails falling out, fighting this horrible infection, and trying to let my body close. So I was not able to take even ice, suck on an ice cube, nothing at all by mouth, because it would go in and infect my body more. So everything had to be through an IV, and my body was rejecting it. So after 2.5 months in the hospital, I was told that my chance of survival was very slim. They thought that I would have about 3 weeks before my organs completely shut down. And can we make you comfortable here, or we can send you home and call hospice to come make you comfortable there? Ben, I wasn't even sick when I went in. I wasn't sure what was happening. So I chose to go home. The very first thing, my daughter came to visit me because no one was allowed to see me because of my being infected, and they had to keep the room clean and all this. So I didn't get to see any of my children. My daughter came to visit me with my grandson, and all I could think about was leaving him and how I would not be able to make one memory with him. I don't know about the rest of you, but my grandparents played a really big role in my life. And I still to this day can remember the smell of my grandmother. And she was a larger woman. And when I hugged her, she was soft. And I just love my grandma hugs. We used to call her Bubba. And we loved her. She was amazing. So was my grandfather. And I remember so much, but how will I create a memory with this baby who's like 3.5 months old now? And I went on a journey to create a memory, which got me to ask my husband to bring me my laptop. And in bed, I typed in these words, desperate for health answers. I was looking for hope. For any of you who have been given a diagnosis, are told that your chance of survival wasn't long or it wasn't going to be a great quality of life. I know what that feels like. You feel scared, you feel desperate. I felt like I had been given a death sentence and guards were surrounding me and there was no escape. It was horrible. And I got online and typed in those words, and the whole world opened up. Like, where in this day and age can you just type in the words desperate for health answers, looking for holistic options, and the world opens up with answers? So I went on this journey through the internet looking for holistic options. And what I noticed was there were great people out there, but there are also those people who were pitching products or saying they were naturopaths or homeopaths, and they weren't. They just realized that there's a lot of money being made in this industry. I'm going to get on that train. And so I had to maneuver through it. And the one thing I didn't have, I had money to purchase those things, but I didn't have the time to be wasting on things that weren't real or not going to serve me. And so thank goodness my husband is a doctor. My daughters were in med school at the time. And I had some support behind me saying that won't work. Don't try that. That's not real. And so I had some help. But as I got better and started this journey, by the way, I want everyone to understand that there is hope for you. And where I sit today is in the exact same diagnosis. My stomach didn't grow back. I still struggle with getting nutrients in my body. If I eat food, which I do, I throw up 10 times a day on a regular day. And I love it. I am thriving. I love life so much. And this gift that I've had for the last 11 years, I am all about now creating these beautiful memories, because I do remember thinking on my deathbed, when people say you won't wish you worked harder, you're right. I didn't care about the Louis Vuittons in my closet, the Hermes bags. I used to drive a Bentley. I didn't care about any of that. None of that was going to give me my life or the quality of life that I wanted. I cared about those memories I wanted to leave with my grandchildren and with my kids. Do they know how much I love them? Do they know how proud I am of them? Did I make it really clear? When I leave this beautiful world, what am I going to leave with them? What am I going to leave with my friends? I've been so busy, I hadn't even connected with most of them. And I decided that my life's goal was to fill my basket full of memories of people that I come in contact with, that I meet every day, that when I'm gone, my grandchildren will sit down one day and they'll be like, remember when Nana used to do this with us? And hey, we went to New York together. Do you remember that? So that's what I fill my life with now. And I can tell you, it's been a beautiful journey. I don't regret 1 minute of the struggle getting here today.
Wow. I'm blown away by your story, Jana, and I'm just getting the feelings right now. So I want to share this because what I usually do for every interview is I meditate before and just seeing what shows up and asking the universe just what can I do to best bring the essence of the guest and also the theme that we want to talk about. And in listening to your story, I want to share a story I heard this morning, just literally an hour before this started. And I'll tie into why I'm sharing this story. And so this was something that my wife shared with me. It's a story that Dr. Stephen A. Ross shared. He's a co-founder and CEO of the World Research Foundation. And so this story is about fear. And so the story goes is that there's a pilgrim leaving the town of Constantinople, and he sees the plague coming into town. And so the pilgrim's like, well, wait a minute, why are you here? And so the plague goes, well, I've come for 5,000 souls. And so the pilgrim's like, wow, okay, I am happy that I'm out of here. And he just leaves town. And then what happens is about 9 months later, the pilgrim returns back to the town of Constantinople and sees that the plague's leaving, but 50,000 people have died. And so the pilgrim says to the plague, wait, I thought you said you're here only for 5,000 souls. And the plague says, I only took 5,000. fear took to rest.
Mm.
And why I'm sharing this story, Jana, is because as I was meditating for this and listening to your story, this image came up where it's like, it's musical chairs, and you've been put into this environment where you've been told there's this one song, one record playing left, and there's only one chair. And the two people that are vying for that spot is fear and hope. And first of all, you weren't told that there's going to be a last song going into it, but you're going through this situation, and just seeing you glow, Jana. I mean, because I really just feel your essence, just seeing you glow. It's almost like I could just see you making this declaration to the universe saying, you know what? Today is not my day, universe. My music doesn't end today. And my question to you, Jana, is what sparked you to allow hope into that seat rather than fear?
I had no other option. I wasn't going to just give up without making that memory. So I didn't have an option. And it was hard finding hope. It definitely was a struggle with the mind shift. So here's what happened for me. I survived against all odds. When I go to see my doctor on a regular checkups now, he's like, I don't know how you're doing it. Keep doing it. That makes no sense to us. You have no stomach. You're eating. Your skin looks great. Your hair's grown back. Your nails are growing. I don't get it. And yet I'm here. And I think that for me, the hope came out of desperation to create that memory, right? Out of desperation to create a memory, hope came in. But I wanted to know what shifted. Why did this change for me, and why not for everyone else? And I realized it had to do with mindset. And I didn't know enough about our beautiful minds and how it works. I knew about manifestation. I knew about, putting things out into the universe and watching for signals. I'm an empath and I'm an intuitive and a medium. And I know about receiving messages, but I didn't understand how our minds worked. And I went back to school in my 50s. I went back to school to learn more about mindset. I wanted to know, how do I help other people shift from whatever that diagnosis might be? It might be a financial diagnosis. It might be a relationship diagnosis. Mine was an illness diagnosis. But whatever is holding you back into the darkness that you're afraid to step forward in, I wanted to go and learn what that meant. So I go back to school. I start coaching people, right? Building a coaching practice. And I wanted to take people who had no hope, that felt like there was nothing left for them, to show them what just shifting a few things in your mind, practicing meditation, practicing breath work, practicing going within yourself and listening to your body. Here's the thing. I knew there was something wrong. My body whispered to me with the little things that were changing and going on. Something's not right. I heard it. I ignored it. I don't have time for this. Then it got louder with the symptoms becoming more, until it was so loud that I ended up in the ER when it was harder for me to do anything about it. Your body's whispering things to you to move out of that fear, but you shut it down out of fear or not knowing what to do with it. Or a lot of people are afraid to step into their real purpose. And I get it. It's scary. It was very scary stepping into my real purpose. I was an interior designer. It's what I went to school for. It's what I really loved and enjoyed. At least I thought I did, until there was this shift. And I got inside of myself and realized I do have a purpose. I'm here for a reason. I wasn't survived just to make those beautiful memories, but I'm no longer going to be held back by fear, because when I do, hey, 45,000 more people might perish because I was held back from fear of sharing that message. And again, we talked about this before we started recording, Ben, but if one person is like scared, desperate, and they just feel like there is no path forward, I'm telling you, there always is a path forward. And it starts with one step. So I'm hoping someone hears the message and understands that this is never the time to give up. You have more beauty ahead of you. I would never have thought that this would be waiting for me when I got on the other side. And I will also tell you, creating memories for me has become a really big thing. It makes me emotional. But my husband and I have climbed Machu Picchu together since this. My daughter is a runner, and I've never run. She asked me to run a Ragnar race, which was 200 miles in 2 days. It was a relay, so I think I had 26 miles, but you don't sleep. You're 24 hours. You're moving in your van, picking and dropping up. And I did it with her. And I told her one and done, that is not my thing. But I wanted to have that experience with her. We've taken our grandchildren on so many beautiful explorative trips where we all get to hang out and create these beautiful memories. My basket is filling, and it is filling with beautiful memories, connections, and things that are making me shine.
Yeah. And I gotta say, it's definitely shining through. I could just see your vibrancy of life flowing in your veins, in your life. And so I want to just first acknowledge that. Wow. Okay. So Jana, I'm curious because a lot of times it's the beliefs that we hold, either consciously or subconsciously, that essentially run our programming, right? And when I'm curious, do you feel in reflection before going into that surgery and your world turning upside down, was there a core belief that you had to essentially replace or upgrade that helped you get through and pivoted to this current stage and this reality that you're living into right now?
So there was. And again, I am a survivor.
Yeah.
I believe that whenever given the option, always choose life. That's just my core value.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful gift. I think we're here for a purpose, no matter how horrible it may seem at the time. I'm just going to give you a little short reason why I believe we're all here for a purpose. I was
Yeah.
raised by a dad who was an alcoholic and a drug addict. And he was not always present. Actually, he was rarely present. After he passed, I found I had two other siblings floating around on the earth. Thank you, DNA. But when I went to his funeral, I had anger towards him for being a horrible father. I had anger towards him for never showing up. And I go to the services. By the way, he'd been sober for 20 years at the time he died. I was an adult when this happened, but he had been sober for 20 years. He still was a terrible dad. I went to his services, and Ben, I thought I was at the wrong place. There was a line wrapped around the building. They were people outside with speakers. And I'm like, what's happening? My dad, when he passed away, had been in AA for 20 years. He had been a sponsor to many people. And it was like an AA meeting. And there was a line, again, wrapped around the building. It was a 3-hour service where people would come up and say, my dad's name was Lonnie. And they would say, Lonnie found me in the gutter. My family had thrown me out. I had lost my job. I was homeless. And he helped me. And it was all these people. And all of a sudden, the burden of not liking my dad, actually hating him, resenting the fact that he was a horrible dad, was lifted from me in that service, because I realized that was my dad's purpose. His purpose was to be on this earth, to be a drunk, to be an alcoholic, go through this horrible journey so that he could be right where he's at today. And if he helped me, his only daughter, right? He helped me, the only child, it would be crazy that all of these people would have gone without help. And I was able to understand his journey and let him go, literally with love in my heart, like so proud of him for all the people he was able to have. He was a horrible dad. He wasn't meant to be a dad. He was meant to go through his journey. So when you see someone struggling on their journey, you don't agree, just know there's a purpose for that. There's a purpose for me being ill. Had I been ill, I would never be sitting in this seat today. There's a purpose for our journey. And once I understood that, it really helped me embrace my own.
Yeah. Man, I'm getting the body chills just hearing that. That's my intuition telling me something. So what comes into mind, Jenna, as I'm hearing you talk about purpose, is that I'm connecting the dots of, I feel, why your early chapters of being an interior designer, if you think about that function, you're helping people rearrange their home, their house, to make them feel like they're at home. And knowing what you've gone through, and then pivoting from that to being a mindset coach, if you think about it, you're helping people rearrange what's going on internally in their inner world so that the energy flows, so that they can feel they're in a safe place. They can feel and allow the space for hope, courage, and things to come into their life, because it's always there. It might be in the corner, but it doesn't mean it's not present. And that's just the imagery I get when I'm hearing, because of your education and your background. Wow, it's an easy pivot to use that skill set and that muscle you've trained into that. And so that's just what I sense and feel in the purpose. Does that resonate with you?
It definitely does. There is a feeling that comes when you go home and it's your space and you feel safe and comfortable, right? That's why when we get robbed, we feel so violated. This is our safe space. It's the same what goes on in our head. It's our safe space. We keep those secrets close sometimes dug really deep down, but it's a safe space. And I want people to understand that there's safety in releasing that. There's safety in releasing the old things in your home that you didn't like. There's safety in releasing the things in your heart, your brain, your spirit that are holding you back. So I totally agree with that.
Awesome. So, Jana, I have a quote I want to share, and I want to see how this resonates with you. And it goes that you can't pour from an empty cup. Do you resonate with this? And if so, how does this quote relate in your life?
I listen to or read that quote all the time because it reminds me of self-care, right? I got in the position I was in because I never stopped to take time for myself. And every single one of you who are mothers and fathers and business builders, you're going to get this. You're busy. It'll wait. It'll wait. And then decades go by and you're still waiting to take care of yourself. My number one thing now is my self-care, my mental well-being, my physical well-being, my spiritual well-being. I've created a whole business around self-care. You should be number one. And I have been told that's really selfish thinking, that you are putting yourself before anything else. 100% that I'm selfish. But I know that for me to give at my highest potential and to live my biggest purpose means I have to pour into that, right? I have to take care of myself. I have to check in. How are we doing today, Jana? Do you need a break? Are you doing this for yourself? Are you doing this because you feel like you need to do it, right? And now I build those boundaries, and self-care, I will tell you, is the number one thing you should all be doing if you want to be better mothers, better dads, better partners, better friends, better coworkers. Start taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. And it reminds me, I had an episode where I cover about map and internal compass, and it'll come to me in a little bit in terms of which episode that is. The point being is that there was an exercise of just making sure you're rowing in the same quadrant with your partner, life partner. And I did this exercise with my wife where, in terms of priorities of finances, family, friends, health, and things of that sort, I initially put my first priority as the finances, right now being the main breadwinner for the family. And when I shared it with my wife, she actually asked me, no, you need to put self-care as priority number one. And it kind of caught me by surprise. I was like, well, why is that? Because I had it maybe as like number 4, number 5. And she said, you are what make this unit runs. Like, this can't go without any fuel in the tank, right? And it's like, wow, when did I get so lucky in having a partner like my wife? Because it's like, it's a great reminder that you can't run on fumes, even though if you're constantly giving, there's nothing wrong giving, but it's this constant sustainable flow where you do need to replenish and you do need to check in. And it isn't about being selfish. Self-care, like you said, it's not selfish, but it's allowing yourself, because you're in it for the long game. You're not in it for the short game. And it's such a great reminder of that.
By the way, that's where you're going to find your real riches, is in self-care. Like, I know that when I was an interior designer, I was pretty successful. And I would show up again in Louis Vuittons, carrying my Hermes bag, walking out of my expensive car. And I knew when my clients saw me, they knew I was successful and they were going to want me. And I had already booked it. And that for me was wealth. And that was what I wanted until I got sick. And I had to give my whole business away because I was too sick to go to work. And when I got well, I wasn't going to ask for it back. I knew that wasn't my space anymore. But now for me, wealth is, who have I touched? Who learned something from this episode? Who was able to step forward out of fear or walk into the beautiful light of hope? One of my things I say all the time is I literally was going through life surviving, doing what I was supposed to do, right? Working, doing the mom things, doing the grandma things, the wife things, just doing all the things to survive and go through day to day. I don't do that anymore. Life isn't for surviving, life is for thriving. And I am literally thriving through each single day. I love talking to my clients. I walk away every day with more energy than I sat at that desk to start working. It has been a joy. It's been an absolute joy in my life to have gone through this journey and sit where I do today. I cannot wait to see what the next decade holds for me.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And it just came to me. It was episode 13 I shared about are you and your partner going in the right direction? But I can really sense the energy of the words you're saying, Jana, and it's very, very inspiring, which leads to the next question of best holistic health. I'd love to understand what inspired you to start this magazine.
Well, first I was coaching. And
Yeah.
what inspired me to do the magazine, please don't laugh, everybody, when you hear this. Like, you'll be surprised that when the universe opens at a door and you don't question it and sort of go through it, you're going to be super surprised at what it has planned for you. So I had clients asking me, well, how come you don't do a newsletter? You should be writing this down and sending it out. And I had a pretty decent email list at the time. I think I had like 5,000, 5,500. By the way, I have 1.3 million now. So that grew in 4 years. So we
Wow.
definitely stepped through the right door. But I was doing some celebrity clients and I asked them, like, okay, why don't you give me an article in your zone of genius, right? Let's just give me something really small, and I'll put it in my newsletter. Well, I got like 40 articles from clients, and I was surprised I got so many of them. I have an interior design background. So I went on Canva. I'm like, how am I going to put all of these in a newsletter? Do I just spread them out over the year? So I went into Canva and I designed a magazine. It was just a pamphlet basically to go out. So it'd be pretty and have pictures, and the story would be told visually as well as through the words. And we sent it out in the newsletter, and I got 35,000 more emails for people subscribing to the newsletter. And I was like,
Wow.
wait, what? This is a thing. So I did it again, and I did it quarterly at this time. I'm like, let's just do a seasonal one because this is actually a lot of work. And so we did a seasonal one. And at the end of the year, I think we had like 125,000 subscribers. And then we added 2 more issues. And then right after that, we had to do it every month. So for the last 3 years, we have released every month, and we've built it to 1.3 million subscribers. And it's mostly people educating. By the way, these people have all been vetted by us. They are the people that I wish I would have found right away when I was searching for health answers or hope. And they are sharing a little spark of wisdom to you, like educating you, giving you hope, helping you move past whatever blocks you have. And it has been a true blessing and honor to be able to do this for my community.
Yeah. Man, what an amazing side quest that the universe kind of thrown at you. And it really came from just you being present and listening to what people need and how you serve. Because I think without you being present, I don't know if that would have sparked that. And so it's such a beautiful journey that you're continuing on growing with that. My goodness. And I'm curious too, because you also have a podcast called Oh My Health, There Is Hope. Did that come around the same time when you started a magazine, or what's the story behind there?
So as soon as I started coaching, I was asked to write a book on my story. And for anyone who's ever written a book, it's very hard. So I put myself in a room. I typed and typed and typed, and I cried through the story. I laughed, like I went through all the emotions. When I was done, I had like one really good chapter. And I was like, I don't know how to write a whole book. How do you write a whole story on this? So I reached out because, by the way, my clients have been telling me these powerful stories that they had been through. I'm like, I'm just going to reach out and have them put their chapter in here. We released the book, Oh My Health, There Is Hope, 5 years ago, and it became a bestseller and then an international bestseller. And all it was people sharing their dark moments and the beauty of going through it and where they are now.
Mm,
And the hope they found to keep doing more, showing up better, connecting with, more incredible people. And I thought, well, if this was bestseller, people must want to hear these stories. So we
mm,
created a podcast called Oh My Health, There Is Hope. We
uh,
invite people on to share their story of hope and where that led them today.
Got it. Wow. What has been the most unexpected reward in starting either the magazine or podcast thus far?
I I really can't answer that. I have so much joy sprinkled all of it. My heart's in every piece of it.
Yeah.
That I have no idea. I keep wanting to cancel the podcast because we've been doing it for so long. We've done 536 episodes, but my team's like, we're still getting so many downloads, like anywhere between 45 and 75,000 downloads every week on the episodes. And they're like, can we just wait until it slows down? And I'm like, if this is really my calling and people are still needing it, we have to still do it. So we still do the
Yeah.
podcast, but it's It's been a 536 episodes. That's like a lot.
That is a lot. That's quite the library you've accumulated. But you know, like there's something to be said about serving when you're in that life of service. I mean, the universe will throw you the right people, resources, and opportunities to keep that going. It kind of tells you you're in alignment, right?
Right.
Oh my
100%.
gosh. So, Jana, there's a quote that came into mind again when I was meditating for this interview, which is a Audrey Hepburn quote. It is that nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I am possible. So my question to you, Jana, is what's the one thing you keep in mind or you would inspire your coachees for them to keep in mind in helping to create the space that life is of possibilities?
Wow. So, first of all, I love Audrey Hepburn. For those of you who don't know who she is, she's fabulous. And she was a huge humanitarian, which is why I loved her so much. But what I like to try to remind everyone is people call me an influencer all the time. And what I would want to say to you guys is you're all influencers. And when you're doing something, pretend like the world is watching. How would you behave when the world is watching? Because your children are watching you. Your neighbors are watching you. You're going to the store and you bump a cart and you don't even acknowledge, excuse me, I'm so sorry. How are you today? People are watching you. You are an influencer, and everything you do passes out into this beautiful vibration of the world. And I want you to understand what that looks like. When I'm having a bad day, and yes, I still have some bad days, I go back home because I don't want to spread that energy out. I want to attract, I want to send out love vibrations and hope and like all the stuff that I want to feel, I want to put out into the world. And I know I'm being watched. So if you're thinking you're not an influence because you don't have thousands of followers, you're probably one of the biggest influencers because there's that one person, that one friend who is mimicking what you do or watching what you do or saying, I wish I was more like her. Be the kind of person that you wish you would like to be more like. And so for me to say more briefly that you are possible and that you are an influencer. And I want you to really take that in, that everything we do, everything we say, our actions, how we respond influences others. And we're not perfect. I make mistakes every single day. And sometimes it's the same mistake over and over and over until I learn that lesson. But I'm open to the possibilities of learning the lesson. I'm open to the possibilities of what that mistake is teaching me and moving forward in a better way. But I always put, again, my needs first, but then the rest of me is open to sharing with the world and helping as many people as possible, understanding that together we are an army of influencers. Our voices are loud. And when we come together for hope and sharing love and kindness, and we've taken care of our needs and we're out there helping the world with their needs. Wow, can you imagine what that energy vibration would look like? It would be like, I get chills thinking about it. It would be so powerful. So when we are possible, we put that energy out into the world that we are all possible. Nothing is impossible.
And referencing back to what you said earlier too, Jana, it just takes that first step. It just takes that first step. I mean, I resonate with that so deeply because, you know, the work that I do also is in people's mind, they might feel it's like a giant leap of faith. But with the right paradigm, with the right lens and the right perspective, well, that giant leap might just be a jump. Okay, that doesn't sound as, and doesn't feel as scary, right? And well, but then with the right support, with the right influences around you to help you nurture rather than it depleting your energy, that jump might just be a step. And if it's just a step of faith, well, I could take that step. That doesn't sound that scary, right? And it just takes really just a different perspective. And sometimes it's just asking yourself different questions because then you'll lead different answers. Why versus why not? Things of that sort. So, Jana, I want to ask you. So, one of the questions I ask my guests is if the DeLorean was real and that the time machine exists, and you can travel back in time at any point in time in your life that you feel where if you can express a message to a younger self, how far back would you go and what message would you give yourself in that moment?
Wow, that's a good one. I would probably go back to my early teens. I suffered the loss of a brother, and I remember it completely changed my path in life. having that kind of loss. It stole my joy. I was afraid to be happy because people would be like, why is she so happy? She lost her brother. And there can be joy when you release somebody. There really, truly can. I know that he's not gone. He's just in his next level of wherever he's, journeying. But it was really hard for me. And I think I'd go back and tell that other self, it's okay. It's okay to always feel joy. It's okay to love yourself because I felt guilty at surviving the accident we were in. It's okay to survive. You have a purpose, and his was completed. And I think I would go back and express to my younger self, because it really held me back from doing what I really had wanted to do when I got older. Having said that, it was exactly what I needed. The journey was exactly what I needed to be right where I'm sitting today. I hear people say, what would you change in your life? And let's say nothing. I would change absolutely nothing. It's made me who I am today. I would tell you that's the wrong answer. If you're going back and get a chance to do it all over again, I hope you change everything, because you can up it all. Why wouldn't you? If you could take the knowledge and go back, why would you change nothing? Because you are who you are today, when you can change everything with the knowledge you have, and not only show up happy, but better than you ever thought possible. So I would go back and I would change it all. Tell myself, change it all. It's okay to do it all. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to feel this. So that was a really great question, Ben. Thank you.
Wow. Well, so I'm feeling a lot of vibration here. And I think the message that's coming through, Jana, is that what I got from your response is you have the power to rewrite whatever it is you want to rewrite. It's not so much of allowing the circumstances that surround you dictate your actions, but rather it's almost the other way around. And because I could sense and feel the energy and the power that you have in that wisdom, because there's power and confidence behind that that's powering it. And if anything, it's imparting that energy to your younger self in saying that you can rewrite anything if you choose to.
You can, and I hope you do choose to, like, push past the fear
Yeah.
and step into something new. It's, by the way, when you shine light on fear, it hides in the dark. It hides in the dark corners. When you shine a light on it, the more you shine the light on it, the less scary it is. So the more times you attempt to step out and the light shines on it, the easier it'll get to keep taking those steps. So I want you to get out there and shine some light on your fear, because it's holding you back from being in your purpose, being in joy, serving others, taking better care of yourself. So it's one step. Take one baby step. You don't have to eat the whole elephant in one sitting. It's one little step.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I just want to add to what you just shared is that, sometimes on my show, I say, well, fear just stands for false evidence appearing real. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I understand sometimes that feeling might come through and you might feel in your body, but if for a moment you suspend any judgment and just acknowledge, hey, maybe it's just false evidence appearing real, then that might be the point for you to, shift what it is that you want to feel inside, so that, hey, allow hope to sit in that seat. Wow. Okay. So Jana, where can our listeners find you? What are you up to now? And where can our listeners find you?
So they can find me at my website, Jana, at janashort.com, or janashort.com, sorry. Or they can go to the magazine at bestholisticlife.com. But those are the two easiest ways to find me. We have the podcast, Oh My Health, There Is Hope. That's super easy to find. Other than that, I'm staying in the magazine and at home.
Oh, so beautiful. And I want to also just acknowledge it was our mutual friend, Brooke Young, that I think helped us. It was, as well as Julie DeLuca, because I remember listening to you on her podcast, Casa de Confidence. So I just want to give a shout out to two amazing women there that's helped us connect. Is there any last message or anything you want to just impart with the audience in wrapping up on what we've shared today?
Thank you, Ben. I do. I want anyone who might be listening to this podcast who's living in fear or feels like there's nothing left for them. I was there. I understand the fear, the desperation. I want you to know that if you have air in those beautiful lungs of yours, there's joy out there for you. There's hope for you. And all you have to do is take the first step. You have to do the work on your own, but you do not have to be alone while you're doing it. So reach out to somebody, grab a support team, hook up with Ben or me. I don't want you to feel that you have to do this journey on your own. Again, you have to do the work yourself. We can't do it for you. but you don't have to be alone during that journey. And I felt very alone in my dying state. And it wasn't until I opened the universe up to me that I realized I had so much support. You have support. All you have to do is reach out for it. I don't want you sitting alone in that fear.
Wow. Again, body chills just hearing that message. I definitely feel the energy of that. Jana, thank you so much for sharing your glow, your energy in today's interview. Whatever I can do to help you amplify it, I would love to. And I appreciate your time today. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben.
Folks, I hope you all enjoyed our last interview for 2023 with Jana today. It is so inspiring to hear Jana's personal story of hope and possibilities. What I feel captures the essence of today's interview with Jana is this: nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. This quote was by Audrey Hepburn. Folks, if you feel you're stuck in a situation where the music is about to stop, there's one seat left, and either fear or hope is remaining in the room. I sincerely hope that you let hope on that seat. You've got this. If you enjoyed today's interview, I encourage you to go to Apple Podcasts and review and rate this podcast so that others can find this show. If you haven't already, I invite you to hit that subscribe button to this Boom Vision podcast if you're hungry to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually. Until next time, folks, be kind to yourself. Be in the light. Be you. Thank you so much for tuning in to my Boom Vision podcast. If you'd like to find out more about me and this podcast, head over to benjaminyeh.com. That's spelled BenjaminYeh.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.